Hi students, good job finding this video, making it to the first assignment you have for the class. Yeah, I guess that's all I'm going to say for that part, for the hello part. Now, there's two things we want to do in this video. The first thing is I'm going to show you a couple of things in Canvas in case you haven't seen them yet because I just got the Canvas page up. And then we're going to move into just a quick discussion of the social sciences and economics as a social science and what that means and why it's important and has its own special issues. Okay, starting with Canvas. So hopefully you can see this pretty well. Let me bring this down a little bit. Okay, so if you go to our class page in Canvas here, which you can access once you log into Canvas, you can just click on this little course book thing. And if my internet decides to be a friend and not an enemy, waiting. I don't know why it's suddenly doing this. Anyway, if you go to our course page, I'm not sure if the modules page is going to pop up for you or a different one, but you want to go to modules. That's kind of where I have everything organized in here. So you'll see that I have this first week published, and it has due for Thursday, the week 1 video assignment, which is what you're doing right now. So I'm assuming you found it. That's watching this video and also completing the assignment that comes with it. And the assignment's like a 15-minute thing. And then this where I have like CS1, that's case study 1. So this will be our in-class, it says right here in-class, our in-class work on the case study that you get 2 points for participating in. So I did have these video and reading assignments worth 10 points before, and I was going to keep 12, your 12 highest scores. But with Thanksgiving and fall break, there were only like 13 assignments anyway, and so I wanted to make sure I gave you more wiggle room. So instead, I made them worth 12 points, but you only have to complete 10. So there's something like 13 to 15 assignments. I can't remember exactly. You just have to complete 10 video assignments and 10 reading assignments, to be able to get an A in the class, basically. Well, and do well in the quizzes and whatever, and the case studies. But it means you can skip a couple of the video assignments and a couple of the reading assignments. So you keep an eye on that. Count how many you have scores on. I will be grading everything within 1 week of you submitting it, or 1 week of the deadline, actually. So I will be getting feedback to you regularly as we go through the semester. So every week I will just publish on Tuesday nights. I'll publish the new week. It'll have the new reading activity, just a place for us to record the case study points that you're earning, and then the video assignment for Thursday and the case study points for Thursday. And then when the quiz number 1 is in week 10, I think. Yeah, week 10, here's quiz number 1. So that'll be coming up, and this is in the syllabus also. And quiz number 2 is just at the end of the semester thrown in here. So you should have everything in here in Canvas ready to go. And we'll have study guides as ways of earning points also throughout the semester for the quizzes. Okay, so if you have any questions, to do the readings, I will be posting links to the readings and these assignments that you need to do for them. But if you also want to just access them independently, you can find them in the files folder here in Canvas. And I have them all uploaded. So we should be good to go for the class. All right? There's the Canvas overview. If you have any questions, you can type them into your assignment just at the end or whatever, and I'll look at them and see if we can get all of your questions resolved and everything handled. All right, now let's talk about economics as a social science. So that's the name of this class, right? I'm going to put it right here. I want to do it in blue. So economics as a social science. Oh, I might have some kitty cats jumping around all the time. I have 5 cats, and I live with my sister and her 6 kids, so sometimes it gets a little noisy. Okay, so first let's put economics aside because we'll be getting back to that. We kind of discussed that in class today, but let's focus on this idea of a social science. What is a social science? And how is a social science different from just science? That's kind of our big question here. So let's actually bring the conversation this way. a little bit. Okay, so there's two main types of science in the way that we humans have decided to create science. First, we have the natural sciences. And then second, we have the social sciences. Now, the natural sciences are going to be the sciences a lot of you belong to, as I've seen on your forums. We've got a lot of people in chemistry and other types of natural sciences. But for example, chemistry is a natural science. Physics is a natural science. The life sciences, so that's going to include things like biology, all of the different categories of the biology. Environmental studies are natural sciences. So environmental studies also look at, human impacts, but they center on the natural things that are happening in the environment. Let me see, I got more on here. Geology and astronomy. Okay, notice when you're looking at these different types of natural sciences, does chemistry exist if humans don't exist? If all of the human beings in the world were to go extinct tomorrow, would chemistry still be a thing on this planet? Would physics still be a thing on this planet? Would biology still exist and still follow the same rules? Or would they follow different rules? This is what makes up the natural sciences, is that the natural sciences study things that are called natural phenomena. So that's kind of the term that what are they called? Philosophers use to kind of categorize these things. Phenomena just means a thing that happens or exists in the world outside of us. So these are natural things that exist in the world outside of us. That means that they're going to exist whether or not humans exist. They're going to work the same way with or without humans. I mean, like how an ecosystem works is not dependent only upon human beings existing. It's dependent upon all the different life forms in the ecosystem, How astronomy works has nothing to do with humanity. We just have ways of understanding it and interpreting it. So the natural sciences, natural phenomena exist with or without human involvement in anything. I don't know if that's being cut off by my picture. There you go. Okay, so social sciences, on the other hand, let's put away those natural sciences a little bit. Social sciences are going to be sciences like one of my favorites, sociology, so cool. Psychology, so many interesting things that come out of psychology that we use in economics. Of course, economics is a social science. We have anthropology. We have, hang on, let me draw the line down here. Geography, political science, squiggly lines for everybody. Political science. I think, did I get them all? Oh, and history. I'm going to put a little tiny history right here. Okay. So if you notice, looking at all of the different social sciences, if you know actually anything about them, geography is our way of understanding like divisions, boundaries, borders in the world. The majority of those are things we just made up. So, for example, it's not like if you drive to the border of Utah, there's going to be some interesting line on the ground where the border ends. We just made that up. We decided this is the boundary, and now we live by that. It's a thing we invented. And if human beings disappeared off the planet, Utah would no longer be a thing that existed. The only reason it exists is because we think it does. We agree that it does. We believe in it. Anthropology is the study of old cultures, the idea of how, human beings have developed these systems of organizing themselves that have these very intricate rules that are very complicated, but that have really fascinating commonalities across different groups of people a lot of the time. Political science is the study of how we organize power structures in our societies. Well, guess what? Societies don't exist without humans. Power structures don't exist without humans. or human power structures, and therefore political science doesn't exist without humans. Psychology is the study of how humans have the inner workings of their mind, working together, how they process things. You can't study the inner working of humans' minds if humans don't exist. You see where I'm going with this? All of these things are studies of humans and how human beings have worked socially. And what we mean by socially is that we cooperate. We work together. We build communities. We're social creatures. Human beings can't live without other human beings. We've evolved to be really dependent upon one another. And with the use of technology and different forms of agreements between us, we've gotten really effective at economics, which is the study of how humans provide for the things that they need. This is the study of cooperation in meeting our material needs. Meeting our, now our looks weird, sorry. Material needs. And by material, I mean physical things that we have to have. I don't mean stuff like love. Love is not material. Love is, something that happens inside of our minds. It can be expressed in other ways, but it's happening inside of here. Material is going to be something like, where did I get this book from? Where did I get this coffee from? I need this to survive. Just kidding. Okay. So do you see the difference between the natural sciences, which are focused on natural phenomena, and the social sciences, which study social phenomena? And what social phenomena are things that exist in the world only because we agree that they do. They're things that human beings create amongst ourselves by agreeing about it. So what exactly is a good example of that? Well, let's look at one of our favorite examples, money, right? Put the dollar signs here because this class is being offered in the United States. All right. Money only exists when we agree it does. If tomorrow all of us decided that our money was worthless, it would be worthless. It would be a self-fulfilling prophecy. Because if we agree that it exists, it exists. But the minute we stop agreeing, it just isn't a thing. It's made up. It's a thing we made up and we agreed about. It's so cool. Human beings can create things out of thin air just by agreeing that they exist. It's fascinating. It's a wonderful thing. This is what the social sciences study. We're interested in what humans are doing. And we're mostly interested in what humans are doing because we really, really like humans. Humans love humans. If you ever notice, 90% of the TV shows and the movies and the books and the stories we tell are human stories. We like watching other humans go through things. We like thinking about different circumstances different humans might be in. We like thinking about how over time, the way we have provided for our needs, the way we've organized our societies, the rules and structures have changed. We love that stuff. We think it's super interesting. We're obsessed with it. This is what the social sciences do. And if you are into this stuff, if you love looking at people around you or systems around you and saying, hey, we could think this through differently. We could do it in a way that would leave people happier or better off. You're thinking like a social scientist. That's what we do. And economics is a social science. So why does this matter? Who cares? Social sciences, natural sciences, blah-de-blah, boring, who cares? Well, there's some really, really interesting stuff that comes out of this. First of all, let's talk about what the natural sciences and social sciences have in common. Wowee. I spelled that word wrong. Fixed it. What in common? And what the social and natural sciences have not in common. What's different between them? What's your guess? What do you think? What do you think the two types of sciences have in common? And what do you think the two types of sciences have that are unique to them?
In common. Hypotheses.
My sister tried answering the question. She's sitting behind me. Her answer was wrong. So, just kidding. Okay. So, what they have in common is that they use the scientific method. Haha. That's why they're called sciences. Now, we've all learned about the scientific method, I'm sure, but we're going to go into a lot more detail because when you take a class in high school or whatever, and it's like, nah, the scientific method is you put out a hypothesis and you actually, is that what you said, kind of?
Yeah.
Her answer was right. Sorry. I rescind my statement. You put out a hypothesis and then you test it and then you adapt it, and you put out a hypothesis, you test it, and you adapt it. All of that sounds really, really clinical. The reality that we'll get into is that the scientific method is totally, first of all, a social thing that we have to do together. It's not something somebody can do in isolation because we have to bounce our ideas off of each other because of our bias. We're biased. All of us only have one experience of the world, our own. And we can experience people talking about their other experiences of the world, but we only have our experience, which means inherently our perspective is very, very limited, like myopic, like this, right? So the scientific method only works if it's something that we all do together because we have to call out each other's biases. We have to be able to say, hey, great idea, but I think it doesn't work in this context. How could we change it for that type of context, right? There has to be that dialogue that goes back and forth. So the scientific method in general is that we as human beings come together and we argue and hold each other the highest standards possible for understanding and discovering any type of patterns between these types of phenomena, natural or social phenomena. We love patterns. We just look for patterns all day long. It's a human brain thing. So what is different between the natural and social sciences? Really, there are two core differences. One is that human beings can be inconsistent. It's really hard to predict what human beings are going to do. Consistent. Whoa, I lost my marker. There it is. Okay. I may love a certain food today and then tomorrow be like, I'm out. I'm done. I never want to eat it again. And I don't even have to justify that. Sometimes we just have the weirdest things make us change our behavior in the most unpredictable ways that even surprise us, right? We can't even predict our own behavior most of the time to a very large extent. Okay, and the second thing, which is really the biggest thing, is that did you see it coming? Did you see that this was the word I was going to put in here? Experimentation. If we want to know how something works in biology, we can put together little petri dishes, or chemistry, we can put together labs. We can test these things in very controlled environments. And then when we apply those things to the greater world, they kind of hold consistent and hold true no matter what. They scale up and down really well. Humans, you can't do experiments like that. You can't take some humans and put them into a totally different social setting and hope that, or just study what they're doing and seeing if it works, because people consider it unethical. Let's say you put a whole bunch of people into some test experiment and they all end up dying, or they all end up, having some type of very dramatic and severe mental breakdown issue. That's not fair. It's not fair to anybody to be put in those circumstances. So we're really limited by experimentation. We can't just conduct experiments all the time. You can't conduct psychological experiments on people without going through some very serious, safeguarded systems. The same thing with economics. I can't just experiment with, hey, what happens if we give 50 people $1 million and nobody else? Because people are like, that's not fair. How do you pick those 50 people? How come they get to be the lucky ones? It becomes this really complicated thing. So in the social sciences, we can't conduct our own controlled experiments very often. And there's some cases where that's an exception, but for the most part, we can't conduct our own experiments. So we have to rely on natural experiments, which basically means we sit all day long and we look at the world and we try to find places where different things are happening and we compare them to each other. And so we just look for what's already naturally, we call them natural even though that's kind of confusing. It's not a natural phenomena. We really shouldn't call it that. That's confusing. By natural experiments, we just mean things that are already happening socially that we can study and compare to other things that are happening socially. And that's what we have to rely on. So, because of these two different things, even though we use the scientific method in both natural and social sciences, even though the goal and objective is to constantly be upgrading and tweaking and upgrading our knowledge and our information, our understanding of how the world works, because human beings are so inconsistent and because we can't really experiment on human beings ethically based on our values in our society, we look around at what's happening in the world around us and we try to draw conclusions from that. And as you might expect, this kind of leaves us with some very messy conclusions. But it's a heck of a lot better than just not thinking about it and letting it roll with however it goes, right? So there's a lot of value to it. And you're going to see, we're going to learn a lot of really interesting stuff about how certain natural experiments have given us insights and taught us about how human beings cooperate in meeting their material needs. This is what we do. Okay, I think that's everything I wanted to cover for this lesson. But I do want to just emphasize one last time, since we're starting here, economics as a social science. So economics is how we study people cooperating. So one thing is cooperation. And the second thing is we want to meet our wants and needs. And who gets what? That's a part of it. These are the systems we set up. So you say cooperation, humans don't actually cooperate that much. Yes, you do. We do. The fact that you came into the classroom, you showed up and you sat and you listened because you knew those were the rules. The fact that you're watching this video right now, these are all acts of cooperation. It's acts of you realizing that you want to achieve something, that I have the ability to help you achieve that, getting credit for this class and getting a grade for this class. And I need you to give me good course reviews. And I also need you to understand economics because it makes my world better when everybody understands it better, in my opinion. So we're meeting each other's needs in certain ways by coming together and cooperating. That's the type of cooperation I'm talking about. And if you have ever left your phone lying out on a Starbucks table while you went to grab a napkin and you came back and it wasn't stolen, that's a sign of human beings being very, very cooperative with your property because they're respecting these rules we made up. We just made them up, but people follow them. And it's because we got to work together. We have this inherent way of working together. Now, how we cooperate, though, might surprise you. For example, we cooperate by having laws. We cooperate by having norms. Have any of you ever tried getting into an elevator and standing facing the back wall? See what people do when they come in. It freaks people out. The norm when you get in an elevator is that you face the door. And if you break that norm, everybody gets a little bit wiggy and uneasy, right? So we don't just have laws that have this formal enforcement. We have these informal ways of handling things. And one of the most important ones of these for economics is property rights. What that means is I know what's mine. And when it's mine, I can do what I want with it. I can sell it, I can use it, I can destroy it. These are things that we made up. This has never existed prior to really the Enlightenment era. Like John Locke was kind of the guy that brought this in with his idea of like the individuated person. But these property rights, the fact that you think of things as yours and you think of things as other people's and you respect those boundaries and those rules is a really fascinating system of cooperation. It's very interesting. This is what we study. We look at this stuff. Meeting our needs and wants, we look at production, what things we make, consumption, what things we consume. We look at attitudes that affect these behaviors. And we look at, of course, distribution as far as who gets what. We have certain systems in place that we agree upon, like, for example, money, that help us decide who gets things. If somebody walks into a store, if 5 people walk into a store and they all leave with different things, How did it work out that those people got those things? And you'll say, oh, because they had money. Well, how did they get money? Oh, because they have a job. Well, why do they have a job? How did they get the job? What if they don't have a job? Does their work still count? Does it not count? We look at all of these different things. Okay, so I'm going to, I think I can fit all of this onto one, I can shrink this down to one sheet, but these are the basic things that we need to know. I'm going to list one more chapter of reading if you would like to do extra reading on this subject, just to think more clearly about it. And then we are going to have a little assignment where you get to kind of think about the differences between natural sciences and social sciences and why economics is a social science. Now, you may want to argue that economics is a natural science, and I'm okay with that. Just make the argument good. All right, I will see you in class on Tuesday. Thanks for being wonderful. Let me know if you have any questions, all right?